this is going to be the last day of this wonderful monotuning or homotuning, whatever you'd like to call it. If anyone knows the term for that, let me know. Every string is tuned to me. It's tuned to moi. No, to me. As in do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Sol, la, si, do. If you don't mind. Before I change the strings, I'm going to get my handy regular slinkies on there tomorrow because I have a rehearsal with a good old pal of mine for a new project. Not really a project, we're just going to get to jam together and see what happens. Dude used to live with in university. We all stayed in the same house near the university. And then sort of lost touch, and just by serendipity, he happened to be in town. You know, we had gotten in touch on the Book of Faces years earlier, but you know, didn't really converse that very often. And he went to a poetry reading at a nearby venue. What's it called? I always forget the name. It has a strange name. Like that bookstore, it's called the Montant Air. Climbing into the air. I think it's probably some sort of play on words, I don't know. And Culture Rapide, that's what it's called. Fast Culture. It's this bar. Sort of a lefty venue. And so that evening I had a choice of going to two different events. Now, I'd already been to a poetry reading, which frankly is not my thing, at this Culture Rapide bar, so I decided to go to the other event, which I can't remember. It was either, you know, a vernissage or a jam or an open mic or a performance of some sort. And so I walked past it, but funny enough, my buddy, he went to this poetry reading, and the person organizing or emceeing the reading that evening is also a mutual friend of mine. So they got to talking, and then I guess at some point they exchanged Book of Faces info, and you know, when you have a mutual friend there, it tells you who it is. And so they both sort of looked at their devices and said, "Oh, you know Paul?" And then it went from there. And so we got back in touch, and he and his girlfriend come every year to Paris and set up shop for a few months in hope of immigrating. So we're going to jam out tomorrow at a studio that I actually had a rehearsal at on Monday, this past Monday. Today's Thursday. And man, has it been a jam-packed last week, huh? It's not like your traditional week, Monday to Monday or Monday to Sunday, or however you count it. But from last Thursday, I had the Les Portes Ouvertes des Ateliers d'Artistes de Belleville here, and so I had people coming in all afternoon into the early evening and having a look at the art. You can see some of it on the walls behind me there, sparkling. And so that was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But on Saturday and Sunday, I had to work 2 double shifts at Rose Bonheur, c'est bonheur, quoi. And on Saturday night, well, I guess it would be Sunday morning, I got back to the L'Atelier at 3:30 in the morning. And then the next day, after working from noon, I got back to the Atelier. And then what would happen is I contracted my first shift a little bit, so I left a little bit early so I could do the artist open doors. And then I went a little bit late so I could have that time, because not this year, but the year previous, it was really good for me, if you know what I mean. Woo! And so that's how I organized it. So I was working straight all day, and then Sunday night, Monday morning, I got back at 5:30 in the a.m. And then I had to be down at Bastille for this rehearsal at noon. And Saturday, I usually sleep pretty well. You know, I can usually get some REM. And but on Saturday night, for some reason, I was just suffering from this massive dose of anxiety. I think it was due to the fact that I didn't want to be late for the next morning shift. So it was sort of that conundrum where you're sitting in bed, okay, I've got to go to sleep because I've got to get up in just a few hours. So I want to feel rested at least. and that combating with, but I don't want to fall asleep because I don't want to oversleep. So Saturday evening slumber was restless, to say the least. Very strange. And then Sunday, I was able to sleep a bit, got a few hours, and then set the alarm clock for, or I woke up naturally at 9:30. So that's pretty hardcore. So I had maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and then went straight down to Bastille for this rehearsal, and that ended. The rehearsal hours ended at 10 p.m. So I got back to l'atelier at a quite reasonable hour. Let's see, did I have any detours after that? No, I think I took off pretty straight away. Man, I can't even remember. It's a blur. And then went to bed. And then I had to be out in Sèvres at Port-Saint-Cloud at noon the next day. So again, I woke up at 9, and it takes an hour at least to get out there. So did my yoga, did this wonderful podcast, rushed on out there. And then yesterday was the performance, and that was funny, or was to be the performance. We ended up performing, actually. But what happened is it was an outdoor set for a fancy fashion brand. Oh, maybe I'll save this story. Well, anyway, apparently, one of the other musicians in this project works in big pharma. He wasn't abashed to admit that. I was about to thank him for 3 solid years of mass hysteria, and but I held my tongue, and he told me that fashion is more lucrative than, not combined, but more lucrative than weapons and, what was the other one? And pharma. So you have weapons, pharma, and then fashion. Unbelievable, huh? So anyway, the set certainly contended to that. It was this nice big outside structure, steel structure with sort of these decorative kekimono, as I like to say, or fabric. And it was, how many levels was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 levels high. Me and Luis and Marion were up at the very top, so that was very cool. We got to see down, and you look down onto these tents. They had these tents set up with dining tables and so forth. And then beyond that, because it's Parc Saint-Cloud, which is a hill, and then it goes down to the River Seine, so you look over the Seine over Paris, and you can see the Tour Eiffel Tower, as I like to say, way over there. And then Sacré-Cœur to the left of that, and the Tour Montparnasse right over here, and then some other buildings, and way in the back there were some skyscrapers, and I was thinking that was La Défense, but maybe not. Maybe La Défense was out of view, so we were debating whether that was. But then the thing was that it just rained. The clouds were so low and so dark. The top of the Eiffel Tower was like piercing the clouds. You know what I'm saying? Like a shove. It was hidden. The top of the tower was hidden by the clouds, and then time goes on, and it's just a solid cloud bank. So we were basically inside of a cloud, and so we were in these tents. They were sort of, they looked like an inverted hull of a ship, these temporary tents, really long situations with these temporary dividers, sort of like in cubicles, those half cubicles thing, but they're 3 meters tall, or whatever the case, or 2 or 3, 2.5 meters tall. And so we were rehearsing in there, 60 of us, all with our guitars, unplugged. So, the sound was sort of like Anyway, just to give you an idea, imagine 60 guitars and 4 basses doing that. And so, unfortunately, when the performance time came around, earlier in the day, they decided to call the event because they weren't going to have all their fancy invitees come and sit in the mud in the rain. So, what was really cool is that we got to benefit from all of the leftover food and spirits. It was effing wonderful. It was really, just beautifully prepared food. It was mostly like foie gras and seafood, I know it sounds disgusting, but the presentation was really nice, and champagne, of course, and a red wine from Bohm, and a white wine. I can't remember where that was from. And then they had these drinks called Negrito. It's sort of like a Campari, a spritz, but I guess the preparation was a little bit different. And then, since we had practiced for so many days, it's sort of a shame not to do anything. So what we did was we transformed the rehearsal tent into the performance venue, and then anyone who was left around, like the fashion staff, the people organizing it, and also there were some dancers. They had hired some dancers. Oh, and there was this DJ guy. It was great. He was the star because I was wondering, is he supposed to be like? Is he an imitator of some sort? He looks sort of like a cross between who's that guy? You know, the British comic from Uzbekistan or whatever, Kazakhstan, and Freddie Mercury, and he was just playing these great vibrant remixes, you know, some Queen remixes and so forth, and he was funny. I mean, he was just great in this white leisure suit, sort of like a John Travolta in Saturday Night Live. Borat is who I'm thinking of, and with the matching mustache. And so what happened is we said we were going to eat, and then we were going to perform. So everyone gets nice and loose, and then the DJ comes out, and we all start dancing on the structure, you know, dancing by ourselves. And then it was time to do the performance. Everyone was in good mood, but it was crazy, man. I'm choking up right now just remembering it. For some reason, I was just crying the whole time. Tears of joy, mind you. And so that was good. And then they put us in a shuttle and then put us in a taxi and drive us all across town. It was the full star treatment. So it was all well worth it. And we got paid. Bisous.